The Grow My Cleaning Company podcast helps owners of cleaning companies just like you to grow your company and yourself so you can make more money and finally get the time and money freedom that probably got you into this business. Discover how to automate and create systems that allow you to grow like crazy without losing control. If you dig the show and want to show some love, subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes. It really helps. Enjoy the show. Hey, Cleaning Nation. Good. Well, I can't say good to see you or good to hear from you, but good to be seen, good to be heard. I don't know. Good to be with you, whatever that means virtually. All right. As is our custom, it is, if you're listening live, it is Wednesday at 2:00 Pacific, where we stream every week. If you want to be a part, join our free Facebook group, Grow My Cleaning Company. Shoot Lindsay a question at support@growmycleaningcompany.com and we'll hook you up. That said, who we got first? What's shaking, Lindsay?
All right. First up, we got Haley Morgan. She sent us a comment on Facebook and she asked, when hiring a salesperson, how do you pay them? Straight commission, like 10% on all contracts closed? And also, what other expectations do you have for your sales reps?
Good question. Really like that. So first and foremost, let's make a distinction. I don't really coach you all to hire a salesperson for commercial. So this would be for residential. Let me kind of explain the different. Well, I mean, you guys know the difference between residential and commercial, but why? So for commercial, if we're doing well, we might have 3 or 4 bids in any given month. And an average bid might be anywhere between $10,000 to $100,000 a year in revenue, or, $50,000 to $500,000 in lifetime value, like high dollars. And a bid usually only takes a couple hours to put together. So I'm just going to do it myself. It's going to take more time to hire someone, manage them. And then also just probably not going to do as good of a job as the owner is. And so I'm not going to hire commercial. Now, keep in mind, because I'm a big fan of being able to work 10 hours a week, anywhere from the world. You don't have to be in your city. So if I'm traveling, I'm going to probably have one of my employees go do the measurements, and I'm going to do the bid portion, the paying conversation, actually what's going on, how would it cost, what are your needs, actual sales portion over Zoom. So if I'm in town, I'm just going to go out there and do it. If I'm traveling, I'm not. So that's why I wouldn't hire a salesperson for commercial. And by the way, for some of you larger guys that are doing 7 figures, and like, I've got sales guys, they've been around, blah, blah, blah. But the problem is, most of the time what that looks like is not salespeople. They're like everything. They do them. They're like, I pay Steve and he kills it, drags it home, does everything, right? But the problem is, there's a lot of problems with that. One, there's too much in his wheelhouse, and you don't really, as a business, have a relationship with Steve's book of business. Steve has that relationship. So when Steve leaves, all of his work that he's done is going to go with him. Maybe some of the work he's already sold you goes with him. Because for commercial, it's such a long sales cycle, and I promise we're going to get to residential. I just want to cover everybody. Because it's such a long sales cycle when it comes to commercial, it's possible Steve is there for a couple months and doesn't sell anything, and he's doing great. It's also possible he is there for a couple months, gets a sale or two, and really isn't very good at his job. So it can take 3 to 6 months to even know if they're any good. And if they're not good, well, not just the money that you paid them, but now you're 3 or 6 months behind on your growth plan. So I love having marketing do marketing jobs. So marketing is to get leads and bring them in. And then sales jobs to take leads and convert, or bids, people that want bids, and convert them into sales. So on the commercial side, typically there's not enough work for a salesperson to do just sales. So people are like, well, I'll have them do marketing, I'll have them do lead gen, but that's not really what they're good at. So that's my rant on the commercial side as to why you wouldn't have that. On the residential side, makes a ton of sense to have a salesperson for a lot of reasons. One, a lot of you guys and gals are like, you get sold on some software that's like, you can just give them a bid online. You don't even have to go out there. And I get it's wildly convenient, but the problem is you're going to get a bunch of one-time cleans. You can't see the place. You got their credit card. If you go out and it's a hoarder situation, the guy's you're stuck. Once you take their money, you're stuck with them, right? So you can't really profile your customers. You're going to get the people that are just looking for price because they got 9 tabs open, and there's no commitment on the customer's end, right? Easy in, easy out. He comes in, a couple clicks of the thing. He's probably just not very committed. So again, even if an average residential client's only $400 a month, it's about $5,000 a year. They stay two years. It's a $10,000 client. We don't have an hour to either go yourself or pay somebody. For crying out loud, go in there and see. I mean, your quality of client will go up, your close ratio will go up, your average lifetime value will go up. They'll stay longer. They'll get better reviews. They'll call you before they quit. Like, so many good things happen when somebody, doesn't have to be you, the owner, but when somebody's on site doing a sales call. And again, residents are better at having their marketing system generate leads and their salesperson just convert those leads. So it really is your client, your lead. And when that salesperson leaves, he or she doesn't have the relationship with the client. You do. So it doesn't affect your business. So that's why you would have a salesperson for residential on site. In terms of expectations, I'm going to expect a residential person, if their process is followed. And one of the big mistakes people make, we can't cover it now, but one of the big mistakes people make is they don't understand when the sales process starts. They think it's when they get onto site and they're doing the walkthrough. The sales process starts when the guy or gal calls in. So it's really important you frame the sales call properly on the phone call, the 15-minute phone call. If you do that wrong, the sale can be dead before you get there. So all that to say, with the appointment, the sales calls framed properly, the owner should be closing at least 70% of the people that go on. Because keep in mind, it's a bit of a commodity, right? It's not like you have no idea, is this going to be $7,000 or one-time payment or $8 a month? Or like, people have an idea the cleaning company's probably monthly fee. They probably think it's going to be $200 or $300 on the low end, $400 or $500 on the high end. Like, it's pretty, there's not a lot of fear if you're going to deliver. Like, is this going to be what I think it is? Like, they're pretty confident if you say you're going to come clean, that you're gonna, especially if you're physically there for the sales appointment. It'd be weird that you show up for the sales appointment, but you can't get, there's just, it's a very simple sale. So if you as the owner out there, it should be about 70% or more. I'll go down to 60% with sales reps if it's not me. Typically, they're not typically, but it's okay if they don't do quite as well. And I'm generally going to pay them some portion, 50 to 100%, based on how good they are, of the first month's revenue. So that's that. And it's going to be, by the way, typically a part-time, unless you're really rocking your marketing, it's probably going to be a part-time gig, right? Like, a good lead flow for residential might be 20 bids a month, which if you work Monday through Friday, there's 22 days. That's like a bid a day, right? And it's not going to be exactly that. It might be 2 or 3 one day and then nothing the next, and so on and so forth. So that's what I would expect. That's what I would pay. That's a lot more answers than you came for, but hopefully Haley is satisfied, happy, and feels a little better about her next steps.
Awesome. Well, we got a question in chat from Cheryl Jacoby, and she asked, hey, Cheryl, she asked how to figure out your profit and loss, because each house is different in size and what you might be spending on top. Could Mike help me out?
I will help the crap out. What was her name again?
Cheryl.
I would be happy to help you, Cheryl. Part of the problem is I think you're trying to get 2 jobs done with 1 document. So surprise, there's 2 documents that'll help. You said how to get a clean profit and loss, which is a really good question. That's one of the first things that we do when people come in as clients. We actually hired someone daily just to do calls and get their profit and loss. It's a big deal. You'd be shocked, guys, gals, how I would say less tin 10% of the people that come in as clients have clean profit and loss. And this is people just starting all the way up to millions of dollars of revenue. It's not like, and I think everyone thinks once they get bigger, then I'll have a clean profit and loss statement. It's not been my experience as a coach for nearly a decade in this space. So to answer the question, certainly want to get your profit and loss handled, but that's not a per customer profitability sheet. It's a company-wide sheet. So it's going to tell your cost of goods sold, basically sales, or here's all the money I got to provide service, and your cost of goods sold is here's what it costs to provide that service before expenses, basically payroll, workers' compensation, insurance, payroll, taxes. And then that leaves your gross profit after your expenses, administrative expenses, liability insurance, marketing, all that sort of stuff. That's going to be your net profit. So profit and losses are really good for that. And just, it's tough because there are so many accountants out there. People come like, my accountant's, and their accountant is a drunk hobo with one arm and no computer. I don't know what they got doing their stuff, but I've seen so many books. I'm just like, makes me sad in my heart. So to get a good overview of the company, you need a good, clean profit and loss statement, and you just need a decent bookkeeper. And I say it like it's easy. It is not. They are hard to find. Without patting ourselves on the back too hard, come be a client. If we have room and we're a good fit, be a client. Well, we have a bookkeeper. We'll make sure she holds your hand. Oh, by the way, that's how we do it. That's how, whether we work together or not, this is how I'd recommend you do it. Get the bookkeeper on Zoom. You share your screen. Don't let her share her screen, because she'll start doing all sorts of wizardry. You'll get confused and you won't want to say anything. And you'll just sit there like, you should, and make her, it's painful for the bookkeeper. They don't want to do this, but they watch you and like, nope, not the other button, click no, down, like, and it's wildly frustrating for them, but that's what it takes to get it done. So I would find that human, pay them to watch you do it. And again, these guys should be anywhere between $30 and $80 an hour, not a wildly expensive, and that you should be able to get the sort in 3, 4, 5 hours if you got a good bookkeeper. So that's the profit and loss statement. What you asked about is customer profitability. For our clients, we have a customer profitability spreadsheet. I would use that. If you're not a client, make a customer profitability spreadsheet. It's just some version of name of the client, dollars in every month, frequency of cleaning, hours per clean, what you pay per hour, drive time and mileage, things like that. And then you just do the math to get your actual cost of goods sold per client. So, and I know there's some accounts out there like, well, QuickBooks will do that for you. It will, but don't do it. I promise you, it's way harder. It's not going to work. Build a spreadsheet that is made just for profitability per customer, and to make sure your profit and loss is accurate. And you're going to use each of these to cross-check the other. So once you've got your spreadsheet built, it should tell you your cost of goods sold based on the data you put in, because you've got to make some assumptions about what it costs you per hour, how long they take, travel time. It's going to give you some of those assumptions. So you'll have your projected profit per client and company-wide. So it'll say, hey, your cost of goods sold based on what you told me is 37%. And you're like, fantastic. Go check your P&L, because if your P&L, which is tied to your bank account, is going to tell you exactly, it might be like your actual cost of goods sold is 63%. Well, now we got to figure out what the heck's going on. So to answer your very simple question with a very complex answer, you're going to want two things. You are going to want a P&L, which is not great for giving you profitability by client, but giving you good profitability by company, like company-wide data. And then you want a customer profitability spreadsheet, which won't tell you a lot about your company-wide profit, but it'll give you a very good idea of profit per customer. And you're going to want to make sure they match. And they don't have to be dead on, right? Like if your customer profitability says you're at 48% and you go to your P&L and last month it was 51%, and the month before that 49, you're like, it's fine. Like we're not looking for perfect. But when you get a 37, 52 delta, we got ourselves a problem. I think I went real fast and nerded out on spreadsheets, Lindsay. Did even a third of that make sense? Or do you think is everybody sleeping in the audience, or just like the 80%?
Well, I know Cheryl responded back, thank you so much. That's what I was looking for. So, all
right, Cheryl, God bless you, lady. You're awake. You're either being a nice liar, which I appreciate, or you got some help, which means probably some other people got some help. Big virtual hug, Cheryl. Hey, amazing people, you may have noticed we don't sell a dadgum thing on this podcast. We don't allow ads. The only ask I can ever have of you guys is if you dig the show, for you to spread the word and share so we can change as many lives as possible. Literally, it'll take you 5 seconds to give us a great review, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate you as a listener and value the gift of your kind words. Now, back to the show.
Our next question comes from Crystal Laurel via Facebook on a comment. She wants to know, how does she take more control and be more proactive while handling the growth of her business? In other words, I'm no longer wasting time, energy, or money putting out fires.
Oof, duh. All right, that's sorry, I went all like Wisconsin. Lindsay knows oof, duh. I'm from Arizona. I'm not allowed to use that. It's cultural appropriation for my friends in the Midwest. Sorry, Midwesterners. Yeah, that including Lindsay. You'll have to take it to the board and let them know I meant no disrespect. That's a big girl question, Lindsay. Okay, the problem is, that's like saying, how can I be happier? Like, oh boy, we got to define what happy means to you and how much happier. So when I hear take more control of your business, this would be where I'll give you some questions I would ask you, Kristen, and perhaps you could ask yourself those. And believe it or not, Clean Nation, once you've got a really good question, sometimes the answer's pretty apparent. So a lot of the coaching we do is people ask questions I don't think are going to get them where they want to go. And I propose a different question. And a lot of times just with a really powerful question, they're like, oh, I think I can answer that on my own. Like, God bless you. Fantastic. So just because that's such a big question, Kristen, and I really want to serve you to the best of my ability, I'm going to give you some other questions, and I'll even make you a deal. You follow up with the answers to these questions on the next, you email them to Lindsay. I will answer these much more specific questions. When you say control, what do you mean? And that means when you say control of your business, does that mean how much growth it has in terms of top line revenue? Does that mean how much profit it has in terms of money to you? Does it mean how many hours it requires of you? Does that mean you picking which hours you're available and which hours you're not available, which would really be more control of your life that the business would support? And then when you say putting out fires, define a fire, right? Because different people have different fires. So I hate to be a complete jerk on this because I've gotten a lot of coaching in my time, and my least favorite questions, more so when I was younger, but it still annoys me, is when I ask a question, the guy doesn't answer the question. Like, wrong question, ask this question. I'm like, come on, man, just answer my goddamn question. And if I could get some more specificity, if we were talking one-on-one, Kristen, and we could go back and forth a bit, I promise I would answer your question. It just, when you say, how do I take more control? I would need to know how much control you have now and how much control you would like and how you define that control. And then I could give you a good answer. But because, it's like, how do I get to Antarctica? I'm like, well, where are you now? And if you're like, I don't know. Or how do I get somewhere colder? I'm like, well, what do you mean by colder? Like, what's the temperature where you're at now? Like, I hate it when people are giving directions, like go left. I'm like, you don't know what direction I'm facing. If you don't know if I'm going north, I'm okay with go east, go west, but when they go left and they don't know which way I'm facing, I'm like, one of us is confused. I don't think it's me. So not trying to bust your chops, Kristen, but I feel like you're going, which way do I turn? But you haven't told me where you're going, or you haven't defined clearly where you're going or what direction you're facing. And I don't want to be like the guy going, go left, Kristen, because you might fall off a cliff and yell at me. So for everybody who wants general things, how do I make more money? How do I get more control? How do I work less? Define what that means. So work less is, well, how much are you working now? And when you say work less, do you mean work more effectively, the same amount of hours, but just doing more effective work that you enjoy? Or do you mean work less hours net? Or do you mean work the same amount of hours, but get to choose which hours you work and which hours you don't? None of those are the right or wrong answer, but how to get that result is going to vary a ton based on which of those results that you want. So there's my worst answer. So the first question was super boring. That answer was super unhelpful. We've got time. I can annoy one more person at the time we've got, Lindsay.
All right. This is a not vague question at all. What is the best way to get leads for government facilities?
All right, there we go. That was specific. But true to my word, I'm not going to give you anything that's going to be helpful at all. You'll still be frustrated, but at least I can't blame you because that was a really specific question. Is that, who asked that?
I'm sorry, that was Ruth Murillo off of Facebook.
I love my friend Ruth Murillo. I have a weird feeling Eddie and Ruth, I think she's in our, ask me offline. I'll tell you.
Ruth is currently actually an elite member. Yeah.
Yeah. So come on, don't take a spot from someone else. You can ask me questions anytime. It is a good question. Okay. So here's the answer to the world. I get a lot of, how do I get more? And I love the specificity. They'll go commercial clients or residential clients, or more specifically, Ruth did government contracts or property managers, and the process is the same. So that's not true. The process for all commercial clients is pretty much the same. The process for residential clients is the same. So we'll go commercial. Most people are hoping for, and I get it, I've been there, and if there was an easy button, I promise I'd give it to y'all. Like some sort of, and there's a lot of easy solutions, but they're not really solutions. Like there's a lot of lists where you can get on, so there's all this. So here's the thing with government, and Ruth, please, clean nation, don't fall into this. Well, this guy for $100 a month, I can get on the deal and all the public bids will be open and I can just get them all. Or I'm small business certified, woman owned, minority owned. So yeah, everybody else is, they all do that. It is nothing. That's like table stakes. That's like having a restaurant going, we got good food and we don't charge outrageous prices. Like, yeah, that's just to open your doors. You have to have that. Like, that's not enough to get there. So, all right, I'm going to go on the government rant. We're going to go over, but I don't care. It's a long question. It's an important question.
Here we go.
Here we go. Buckle up, kids. I'm going to get specific. Well, before we even get there, let me tell you why the questions I would answer for let me give you the pros and cons of government work first, and then I can kind of tell you how to go about getting government work. So the only pro, there's two pros to government work. Generally, they have a lot of money. They'll say they're budget based. They're not terribly, especially if they're putting RFP, RFQ. They've got the money, And believe it or not, you think that they're like looking for the lowest price. They're often not. They're looking for the lowest qualified bidder. It's how you get $900 hammers from the Pentagon, because one jerk is buddies with that guy, and the hammers have to have the special thing, and he's the only vendor that has it. So he's the lowest qualified bidder, but there's only one bidder, blah, blah, blah. So the good news about the government is they do have money. They'll spend a lot. Like if you're like, who's got a bunch of money in my town? It's probably the freaking government, right? And we're paying taxes. Might as well get some of that flowing back our way. That's one good thing. The other good thing, which is a double-edged sword, it's neither good nor bad. It's just a thing that if you can utilize to your benefit, they will typically follow their contracts. So their contracts often make no sense. And as a business owner, we use common sense. Well, it says this, but that doesn't make any sense. Stupid stuff like the bid's due by 5 o'clock. Someone turns in a bid at 5:03 and it's a low bid and the government wants to award it to them. You can go to the government and be like, no, 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 no. Your contract says 5 o'clock is a bid. You may not take that. And they will typically say, you're right, we're going to kick that bid out, even if it makes no sense, right? With any other entity, you'd be like, come on, it's 3 minutes. Let's be reasonable. And the guy's going to go, I just want to use it. Screw you. I'm going to do what I want to do. The government typically will follow their contracts to the letter, which is good if you're a lawyer or you like that kind of doing. I hate the government. I shouldn't say I hate the government, but I would not choose to. I'm not a big fan of many of the. I love our country, by the way. I'm American. I love America. A lot of our hardworking, probably started with the best intentions officials. I'm not as a big fan. Both sides, by the way. This isn't a Republican Democrat thing. Just whatever. So if you're into, I'm a lawyer, I want to read a lot of contracts, I want to have a lot of relationships. I don't want to provide the best work. I want to follow the contract the best, or even better, get in with on the stage of writing the contract and write it in such a way that I'm the only one that qualifies. If that kind of thinking turns you on, government work is for you. If you're like, ugh, I just want to do a good job for a reasonable price and make people happy, government work is not for you, because nobody over there is happy. So to answer your question, Ruth, when I said it's all the same, it really is. You got to find out what their pain is and then position your company to solve that pain uniquely. The government has unique pain. So everyone's like, the government doesn't have any pain. Yes, they do. And first of all, there is no such thing as a government. There's only bureaucrats or government employees, right? There's an army of them, but they're, again, the quote unquote, the government doesn't buy anything. Sylvia in frickin' procurement for this department buys crap, right? Like she's a human being. And Sylvia has pain just like anybody else. Now, Sylvia at her home for her house. All right, here we go. I'm going political, by the way. So I forget the name of the article. I wish I could credit whoever came up with this thinking, but it's so good. They did a study on money and the best use of money. And they found me buying something for myself is the best use of money, right? So if I'm buying something for me, I will usually get the best deal, find the best thing, and do a good job with it. Just common sense, right? Like it's my money. I'm interested in me. I'm pretty good. Me using my money to buy something for you, second best use, because it's still my money. I'm somewhat interested in it, but not as interested if I was buying it for me. The third best, most efficient use of money is me using someone else's money to buy something for me, right? Like less if it's less efficient if it's my money, because someone else's money, I'm going to be a little, we get health insurance. I'm like, well, I don't feel so good. Might as well stock up on this. I paid for it. I might as well get my money's worth, right? So it's not going to be quite as efficient if it was my money for me. If it's someone else's money for me, there we go. And the least efficient use of money is me spending your money on someone else, which is the government, right? And it's not that the government's evil. That's just, if you just do the math of like, that makes sense, right? If I get Lindsay's money and it's not my money and I'm not spending it on me or her, I'm spending it on Bob and I don't know Bob, I'm going to be a lot less efficient than if it was my money and I'm spending it on me. So Sylvia is in that position of, I don't give a crap about it. It's not my money and I'm not spending it on me. I get no benefit to this. So Sylvia is going to go to what her pain is. I don't want to get fired. I don't want to, I'm making $62,000 a year. I get a bunch of benefits and blah, 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 blah. I just don't want anyone to yell. I just want everyone to leave me alone. I want to do the least amount of work for the least amount of hassle. Sylvia's not a bad lady. She's a human. That's how we are, right? So her pain is, I just want someone to freaking dot the I's and I don't want to do anything. So to solve the government's pain, you get really good at understanding their contracts, and they've got a bunch of asinine, pardon my language, rules and regulations that you got to follow. Did you fill out there's sitcoms of, did you fill out the form W-2-3, back of the line, blah, blah, blah. That's the government. So their pain is, form W-2-3, and you filled it out the right way, in the right font, on the right paper, with the right staple, in the right place. And Sylvia can just be like, done and done, baby. she doesn't care if it's the cheapest. She doesn't even care anything. She just knows she ain't going to get fired because by God, that staple's on the top left and the top third of the thing. And it's a number 3 staple, which is all that will look like, all the little stupid stuff. So to answer your very simple question, again, with a very complex and probably boring answer. Sorry, Clean Nation. How do you get government work? Just like anyone else, you understand their pain and you solve it differently. What's their pain? It is not the cheapest bid. It's the cheapest qualified bid. And to be fair, Sylvia doesn't even care about the cheapest qualified bid because she's not getting cleaning services for her building. She would care about that. She's getting cleaning services for some other building that she has never seen or been in. So she just cares that do you fill out the paperwork right? Do you make her life easy? And can she point at the contract? If something goes wrong, she goes, I follow the rules. He followed the rules. He's a qualified bidder. It's not if you can do a good job. That doesn't matter to Sylvia. It's can she point at the thing and go, I follow the rules exactly. So again, if that turns you on, you're like, that's the kind of business I want. The government is for you. If you're like, I just want to do a good job for someone that actually has a pain that I can solve, I probably wouldn't start with the government. And I'll give one more kind of heads up in case you're, so that's how you get the business. Let me tell you why I wouldn't get the business particularly. One, they say if you sit down at a poker table and you don't know who the chump is, you're probably the chump. That's kind of what it is with some of those government bids. When you go in and they're like, hey, Steve, what's up? And they're all drinking their coffee and they all know each other. You don't know none of them. Just saying, you might want to pay a little attention. And when for those of you that aren't watching, doing ridiculous air quotes, win the bid, did you? Did you win a bid? Because all these other guys that know the bid, know the people, know the whole process, and you just kind of walked in without knowing any of this crap, and you get the bid, you're like, these guys have all done a bunch of these bids, and this is my first. What do they know that I didn't win or I didn't know, right? So government's not for good part-time stuff. Like if this is really what you want to do as a niche and like dive in and nerd out and get to know all the bureaucracy. And by the way, there is no such thing as government. There's federal, there's state, there's county, there's city. There's just a ton of different governments and they're all governmental, but they all have different rules. So you have to start and it gets the smaller, the better, right? You start on a little county government. They may not bust balls as much or be as complex or have as much paperwork as a city. City ain't going to be bad as a state unless you're in Chicago. Chicago might be worse than Illinois, but for most cases, and then the federal, of course, is just this behemoth that's the most difficult to deal with. So usually very expensive to that. Knowing the ins and outs usually costs quite a bit. And also pay. They, with a regular business, you can say, well, I only get paid in advance. And if that doesn't work for you, we'll just pass. And 90+% of businesses, if you do it right, you know how to have a conversation, you understand their pain, and you do everything else right, you can get paid in advance. With the government, you can, believe it or not, because they won't tell you this, but some of them, and again, same thing. You can look in there and sometimes there's laws that say if there's a discount for paying early, you must take that discount. So you can literally go, I'll give you a nickel off if you pay net 1. And then you go, hey, you by law must take this discount. And you might do net 1%, 1% discount, net 5 or some, whatever terms that you want to set. But again, these are the things that you have to look at is the bureaucrat's not going to tell you any of this crap. You got to find that out on your own. So again, hopefully you're getting an idea of what it feels like to deal with the government. If that lights your candle, go get them. If I'm just starting a cleaning company, I would never take the government as my first niche. If I had a ongoing customer or cleaning company, I was trying to add a niche and I maybe knew somebody or had a little in, I'd consider it. But just be careful, like buyer beware or seller beware. They're, I've seen the government put a lot of companies out of business. I wouldn't say intentionally, just it's a machine that just grinds up vendors. All right. Rant over. We've gone way over on time. Lindsay, anything we need to cover? I'll shut up and give you 10 seconds to talk.
No, that's it for today. Just a quick shout out to Denise, Constantine, Christopher in the chat.
Missed your girlfriend.
Yeah, OG. And Cheryl, of course. And Beata, I hope I'm saying that right. I see Beata's question. We're going to answer that next week. And that's it. That's all I got.
All right, Clean Nation, you guys are the best. Thanks for hanging. Reach out to Lindsay, support at Grow My Cleaning, or just support at growmycleaningcompany.com. If you need any help, check us out in the Facebook group, growmycleaningcompany.com. We got stuff. Want to grow your company? We got it. Check it out. See ya. Well, here we are, the end of the podcast, and you made it. Great job. I've got a little bonus for you for sticking through with me. But like I mentioned before, if you got value out of this podcast and you want to show a little love, subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes, Spotify, wherever the heck you're listening to this thing. Share it with a friend. Share the love. And as a special thank you for those of you that stuck with me to the end, how about I give you my personal phone number so we can text? It's a great way for me to get to know you, your business, your goals personally. So shoot me a text now, 602-932-6431, 602-932-6431. I am the only one who responds to these texts, and I will personally respond to everyone I possibly can as long as this number is manned. Don't know how long we're going to keep this at the end of the podcast, so grab it now, 602-932-6431. Give me a text, say hey, can't wait to meet you.